In an election, 2/3 of the students vote. If 1,502 ballots are cast, how many students attend the school? Write and solve an equation. Identify the variable. So when you have these word problems, the first thing you should always do is figure out what are they asking you. They want to know how many students attend the school altogether. They've told us that 2/3 of the students voted, and that 2/3 is equal to 1,502. They're wanting me to write and solve an equation, and they want me to identify the variable. So the variable is what we don't know, and in this case, what we don't know is how many students are attending the school. So I'm going to call that n, and I'm going to say n equals the number of students that attend the school. Now I have to write an equation to solve this. So think about what information we know. 2/3 of some amount of kids equals 1,502. So when we say a fraction of something, that means we multiply it. So 2/3 of, that means we're multiplying it, of the total amount of kids in the school, which is n, equals 1,502. So now I just have to solve this equation. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2/3 because I want to figure out what n is. I need to isolate the variable. 1,502 divided by 2/3. So now I'm going to do this off to the side here. So 1,502, I'm going to turn that into a fraction, 1,502 over 1, divided by 2/3. Now I know when I divide fractions, I stay switch flip. So 1,502 over 1. Sorry about that. I flip the sign, I switch the sign, so division becomes multiplication, and I flip the second fraction, so that becomes 3 over 2. I'm going to do some cross division to simplify, so 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 1,502 751 times. Now, that's a 1. Now, I'm going to multiply 751 times 3, and that equals 2253, and 1 times 1 is 1. So I know that 15 coming back over here, I know that 1,502 divided by 2/3 is equal to 2253. So that's what n equals, and remember n equals the number of students that attend the school, which is what they were asking me to figure out, how many students attend the school. So the answer is 2253. Now this is problem number 2 in 8.4, in case you still don't feel super confident about how to solve these. And then this time in an election, 3/4 of the students vote. If 1,212 ballots are cast, how many students attend the school? Write and solve an equation, identify the variable. So again, when you cast a ballot, that means you vote. So they're telling us that 1,212 students is equal to 3/4 of the total amount of students. We just want to know what the total amount of students is. So what is 3/4 is 1,212 is 3/4 of what amount? So we're going to identify our variable. So n equals total number of students. So let me say that sentence again that I messed up. 3/4 is 1,212 students is 3/4 of how many students? So it's 3/4 of what is equal to 1,212, or 1,212 is equal to 3/4 of how many? So I'm going to divide both sides by 3/4. N equals, over here, I'm going to figure out, I'm going to do this division. 1,212, turning that into a fraction, divided, and that's a 1, not a 7, divided by 3/4. Stay, switch, flip is the rule when we divide fractions. So 1,212 over 1 times, I'm going to switch that, and I'm going to flip 3/4 to become 4/3. Now I'm going to simplify by cross division. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 1,212 404 times. So then I'm just going to multiply 404 times 4, and that equals 1616 over 1. So going back over here, 1,212 divided by 3/4 is 1,616. So that tells me that there are originally 1,616 students in the school. And when I look at my answers for 8.4, 1616 is one of the answers. I think I'll do one more if you're still struggling with this. In an election, 5/6 of the students vote. 1,620 ballots are cast. How many students attend the school? Write and solve an equation. Identify the variable. So again, 5/6 is equal to 1,620, and that is how many kids voted out of some total amount, which we don't know. That's what they want us to figure out, how many students attend the school. So 1,620 is 5/6 of what amount? Well, this time I'm going to write it that way. 1,620 is 5/6 of what amount? We don't know. Okay, so N equals total students. All right, so I'm going to divide both sides by 5/6 because I need to isolate my variable. I need to get N by itself so that I know what N is equal to. So N equals, oops, I'm sorry, I forgot the 1620. So now I have 1620 divided by 5/6. So 1620 is going to turn into a fraction. I'm going to divide it by 5/6. Then I know that 1620 stays the same. I switch division to multiplication, and I flip the second fraction. I'm going to reduce by cross multiplication. So 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 1,620 324 times. 324 times 6 is equal to 1,944 over 1. So N equals 1944. And that is one of the answers in my answer sheet, so I know I got that right. Now, as you're working through these problems, really try to be thinking about what they're asking you, what information you're finding out, because even though you might be able to solve all of these homework problems correctly, you need to understand how to solve problems like this that may look a little differently. All right, so they're telling you that they want you to find out the total amount of kids, and they're giving you a fraction of that and telling you what that fraction is equal to, and they're wanting you to find that out. I just want to show you how to solve this as a proportion, because some of you may do this, and that's fine. So I'm going to write this as a proportion as part over whole. The tricky part of this is seeing that what the whole amount is. If the fraction is 2/3, what would the whole amount be? Well, 2/3 is part of one whole amount. And then the part of the other part that I have is 1,502. That's part of the kids. And what is the whole amount of kids? We don't know. Okay, so once you set that up, most of you can figure out how to solve that, and you'll see that that looks like what I set up a little bit at the beginning of this video. So 1,501 times 1 is 15, or 1,502 times 1 is 1,502. 2/3 times x is 2/3 x, or n, whatever you want to call your variable. And that is the whole amount of kids that attend the school. Right? So then I divide both sides by 2/3. And just like I did before, 1,502 over 2/3 is